On my previous video, we finally got some of Misato's background, when in a flashback we went back to Antarctica and witnessed the rise of Adam for the first time in the story. The events known as the Second Impact and the Light Giant will scar Misato forever, both physically and psychologically. Misato's lifelong quest on defeating the angels and prevent the Third Impact has reached a new level on her obsession, as it has become more evident than ever that she is willing to put millions of lives on the line in order to satisfy her obsession. Finally, the relationship between Misato and Kaji is unveiled, as we learn more from their past and how Kaji reminded her of her father, the man that she loves the most, as he saved her and gave her an opportunity to live. At the end, Misato will ambush Kaji as he was spying around the Terminal Dogma and unveil to her the deepest secret of Nerv and the lies within. On this episode, we will take it from episode 16, when Misato has to face the consequences of her recklessness. This is Misato Overexplained Part 5. We start this episode in Misato's apartment, visiting Tokyo's three favorite family. The first few minutes of this episode is reminiscence of the first episodes of the story, bright and fun, as Asuka entered the bathroom to take a bath, very joyful and happy, only to be burned by the hot water and having her day ruined. Meanwhile, Shinji is cooking for Misato, as she drinks a beer, and enjoys the presence and happiness of Shinji. Perfect morning on her life after the events of the previous episode. Of course, Asuka breaks the harmony, complains about the hot water, Shinji takes the blame for some reason, Asuka, who wants Shinji to behave like a man, calls on him, and Misato defends him, only to be targeted by Asuka on how indecent her relationship with Kaji is. The tone of this scene, although bright, is also symbolic, as the director is telling us that Asuka is feeling shadowed and starting to feel out of place, especially after how the relationship between Kaji and Misato has unveiled so far. Also, on how Misato is way too overprotective and soft on Shinji, justifying his weaknesses every time he gets cornered. We will see this habit all the way up to the end of the story. After that, we attend to a sync test, with Dr. Akagi made it very clear that Misato and Kaji's relationship is now public and part of the office gossip, something that is not on Misato's liking. On that test, Shinji achieved the highest results, surpassing Asuka for the first time. This makes sense, as we know that the relationship between the pilot and the EVA unit is mostly psychological. Shinji is at this point of the story in a very good place, mostly thanks to Misato, as she has kept him happy and praised him for every step of his development. This of course in contrast on Asuka, who is being threatened once again. Her psychological stability is starting to shake as she has become more angry than usual. An angel appears and Misato gets late to the party, just like a juvenile child, just like Shinji. The Evangelion units are deployed and Asuka starts to pick on Shinji, trying to get on his nerves. But as unexpected as it can be, Shinji this time is overconfident. He feels he's unbeatable, as Misato has only praised him on recent days, overprotecting him. After some misogynistic comments, which is funny because he is the only male in this sequence, he goes ahead disobeying Misato's order and starts shooting as fearless as an 80s movie action hero. At this point, it is very clear to Misato that she is responsible for that behavior, and in result she will have to have a word with him after the battle is over. Our hero gets caught by Leliel and Misato orders his entry block to be ejected. It's not possible. Evangelion Unit 1 has been lost to the angel attack, as Shinji screams Misato's name. Misato knows the sour feeling, one that she hasn't felt in a long time. She has been defeated. No other choice left than to retreat. Surprisingly, Asuka is not willing to leave Shinji behind, neither do Rei. However, they retreat, following Misato's orders. Dr. Akagi and her team let Misato know that in 16 hours Shinji will be dead, if rescue is not possible, as the battery of the Evangelion unit only lasts that long on standby, just enough to keep the pilot alive. After seeing a chapel and hearing the bells, which reminds of a funeral, Anno is trying to set the premise that Shinji is dead. Asuka and Rei have a discussion. They have a lot of interactions in this episode, but now it's pretty clear that Rei has developed her own mind at this point. She's not a doll or a puppet anymore. She's worried about Shinji and faces Asuka's harsh comments, who is pretty worried also, but the way she copes is different, more aggressive. Misato puts an end to this conflict as she is still trying to figure out what is next. Dr. Akagi explains to the team that Shinji is lost in the Dirac Sea, which is a real-life concept related to quantum physics. These are not explained in depth in the series. All you need to know is that Dr. Akagi believes that Shinji is in another dimension. After that, Misato and Ritsuko have a discussion, in which Ritsuko makes Misato responsible for the mission failure, and states that the priority is to save the EVA unit and destroy the Angel, not saving the pilot. Misato loses it and hits her. She's not having it. Now this is very important, as there is a shift on Misato's priorities and behavior. Her obsession on defeating the Angel threat has become secondary. As for now, her priority is Shinji's life. This is how important he has become to her, how much it means to her, how much she needs him. A few episodes ago, Shinji's life was worth to put at risk, as long as she succeeds on the mission. Misato and Ritsuko's reactions are served as contrast on how much things have changed on Misato's behavior. Ritsuko, even when being physically attacked, keeps her professionalism. Misato, who not too far ago did the same, now crumbles to her feelings. After Kaji's reveal on the last episode, Misato knows that something really bad is going on under her nose, and Dr. Akagi is part of it, and still, she replies that she has to trust her. But with so many lies, who would? The next sequence focuses on Shinji and his interaction with the Angel, where part of the focus is his mother. This sequence is quite revealing on how Shinji sees Misato at this point. This stands out when he hears Misato's voice. A cross appears instead of a line. The cross has become a symbol for Misato, at least on Shinji's head. As the sequence reaches its final part, in which Shinji sees a picture of his actual mother, he also sees his father's back, leaving him behind, but also sees and hears Misato while the shots come back and forth between her and his father. Then he sees a figure approaching as he passes out. He feels that it's his mother. Thus, he says mother as the figure hugs him, followed by this dark shadow that speaks to him with Yui's voice. The silhouette shows a different haircut, which is more similar to Misato's. At this point, Shinji sees Misato as the only female mother-like figure that he ever had in his life. Does this mean that it's Misato in Shinji's memory that saved Shinji from Leliel? No, it wasn't. It was Yui. Shinji knows that Misato is not his mother, but if he had to put a body to the voice, to the feeling, it would put Misato's, as he does not know how it feels to be hugged by his real mother. EVA 1 destroys Leliel, and Misato overhears Ritsuko talking about the real monsters within the armor. Now Misato can be sure that Ritsuko knows more than she says, as Kaji said. She runs desperately towards Shinji, and we get this shadow again, similar to the one of Yui's, and again, this time for real, Misato hugs Shinji, in which Shinji says that all that he wanted is to see her again. See who? His mother or Misato? Misato was about to lose Shinji as she lost her father, because of an angel. Imagine having to go through all of that again after 14 years of trauma. That is why she cries on relief, while Asuka, who was also worried, copes again on her own way, saying that she was expecting punishment for disobeying her orders. Shinji comes back as Rei visits him in the hospital, and a very worried Asuka spies from behind the door, and so the episode ends. Episode 17 starts with Misato being interrogated by Seal, as she needs to report the events that happened with Leliel and Unit 1. Misato here is direct and professional, as Shinji is safe. She understands that she has to follow the rules, for now. This line of questioning focuses on the ability of the angels to communicate. Across the story, there's going to be 4 angels that communicate with the pilots. 2 of them with Shinji. Misato states that there is no hard evidence that each of the angels are connected to each other, which means that although angels, they do not behave as a group. The point of all this sequence is to set a precedent that before Leliel, no angel tried to communicate with any human before. Misato, of course, doesn't have an answer for that. Only questions. Questions that Seal categorically refused to answer. Then Unit 4 explodes in the United States. They were testing the S2 engine that was recovered from Shanshell into an EVA unit. The S2 engine is the name given to the autonomous source of power that gives angels the ability to move without an external source of energy. This is very precious for Nerv, as if they are able to do the same with the Evangelion units, it could be a game changer. Misato of course says that none of this would happen if scientists stop playing with things that they do not understand. Ritsuko agrees, quietly. The United States decides to send their other unit, Unit 3, to Japan, as they are more qualified to start a unit at this point. Who is the pilot? Well, we do not know yet, as the dummy plug is becoming an option. This sequence between Misato and Ritsuko works to portray the tension between both of them. They still feel there is a friendship there, but Misato knows that Ritsuko is lying to her, and Ritsuko knows at this point that Misato is aware of many things already, and it's only a matter of time that all of what Nerv is hiding gets exposed. They are discussing the pilot, and the chosen one is Toji, according to the Marduk Institute, who is in charge to study who are the most qualified potential pilots in the world. But Misato is starting to get suspicious about the Institute as we are unveiled that they had chosen another child. The chosen one will be Toji, Shinji's best friend. The audience doesn't know yet as we are left in the blank, but Misato, who sees the monitor, does, and decides not to tell Shinji yet, as he has gone through a lot lately and is worried on how he might take it. She needs answers, so she goes to Kaji and finds him trying to fool around with Maya. I personally love this sequence because it exposes exactly who Kaji and Misato truly are. Misato knows that she can trust Kaji, that is why she doesn't get jealous this time. That whole thing on fooling around with Maya is an act, just that. How do we know that? Well, because of the trash can. While talking to Maya, he throws a can to the bin, which is full and goes to the floor. Who cares, right? He's the cool guy. But as soon as Maya leaves and he's left alone with Misato, he picks up the can and organizes all of the cans in the bin so they fit together perfectly. See? An act! That is why when Misato confronts him and tells him that he shouldn't be harassing other girls in the office, he asks if she would prefer to be the victim of his seduction. She replies, depending on your answer. At this point, Kaji knows that Misato means business. He just won a valuable ally for his mission. Misato asks about the Marduk Institute. Kaji unveils the truth and asks her to see it by herself, giving her a code to do it. Code 707. Shinji's school. After Shinji and Kaji had a man-to-man conversation, Shinji attends to a sync test. But he is decreasing in his numbers. The trauma after the yell and his failure are still present. Misato is very worried because before that experience, Shinji was going out of his shell, and now she's afraid that he might go back to it. Before the episode ends, we see Asuka trying to regain some of the terrain lost to Misato in the Kaji's front, as she surprises him with an unexpected hug. Kaji doesn't like that, at which Asuka realizes that if she were Misato, Kaji would react differently. And thus the episodes end, with Asuka realizing who the next pilot is. Guys, we will be picking up from here on the next episode of the series. I promise that it won't take me another 3 months to upload it. We are also getting very near to the end. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already liked the video. If you did, join my Discord. The link is in the description section down below. And as always, I wish you all a wonderful day.